We're at the last talk, and the last talk I'm supposed to talk about NRP and NAIRR. And I figure that I wanted to reflect a little bit on what we've seen, and want to give you an opportunity to reflect a little bit on what we've seen, and basically ask you what you think should be the next priorities for us as a community. And so if anybody wants to start throwing a reflection in the hamper, I'm happy to not be first. If no one wants to start, I'm just going to go ahead. So I think one of the things that has become clear, in fact, really clear only in the last few days, is that when I listened to Katie's presentation, or let me start by giving you a little bit in inside baseball. So the NSF has sent an email around to all the resources that it has on its docket, it funds, that weren't already in the first NAIRR pilot allocation, and asked us, what do you want to give? What can you provide, et cetera, et cetera. And so I got that email about a week ago or so, or maybe 10 days ago. And I said, sure, count me in. But I didn't know what that would be, because I look and on the webpage of what's there, and there's like Google giving millions of dollars and NVIDIA giving $20 million worth of hardware. And, and that's all going to go into the next round of allocations. And so I asked myself, $20 million from NVIDIA, and we have a total of 1,000 GPUs. What's the point, right? And so then within the last 3 days, it's actually become, and also in the presentation from Katie, it's become totally clear the part that the NSF doesn't have right now is an education platform. Basically, NAIRR Classroom is sort of kind of non-existent at present. And so then when over lunch we had this discussion between Katie and some of the CSUs, and I think Kennesaw was involved. So then some GP Engine and folks, and sort of that entire discussion made it kind of obvious that, and the things that I've heard yesterday and today made kind of obvious that what NRP really should be offering the NSF for the next round of allocation of NAIRR is an education platform. Basically kind of stuff that we just heard in the last talk, or this morning, or yesterday from Farley and Polic, or it's sort of obvious that we have something to offer that isn't yet in the hamper of what NAIRR offers, that is totally 100% within the scope of what NAIRR wants to offer, and we should just offer it. And so I had that conversation with Katie yesterday before she left, and so we will be offering for the next round of allocations NRP as a NAIRR classroom resource for the nation. And we'll see how we can figure this out. And I'm going to probably lean on the people who have figured out how to do this in order to give us sort of templates on how to get other institutions onto that bandwagon and figure that out. So that's one. The other thing that I saw that seemed to be a theme across multiple institutions is getting students involved, but not just as students, but as student workers. And I think that is a theme that we can do much more with, or all of us. And I challenge all of you, in a sense, to do more with that theme. And when I look around my own institution, UCSD, we have a gazillion people who are doing work study. And a lot of them flip burgers. A lot of them work in hospitality at UCSD, basically in the various eateries on campus. Why shouldn't we offer work at in doing the kind of things that we talk about here as an alternate work study. And so I think that's a theme that's worthwhile doing more with. Comments? Does that ring true to you guys?
I think Mark Andreessen was working as a senior hourly when he did Mosaic.
So let me add this. So Larry's saying Mark Andreessen, the inventor of Mosaic, worked as an hourly when he created Mosaic. He was a senior undergrad at the time. So maybe we don't necessarily want to shoot that high, but I think I think it's a valuable educational experience to do something that actually supports others. And so figuring out how to employ students into this in various ways is a worthwhile exercise. And then the last reflection that I have is that I was very impressed by what I saw from in the Scenic Air presentation. The notion that and I think that extends across the entire quilt landscape, the regional networks, it's an incredible community. And if I may, I love going to quilt events or in general networking events because they're the most social people within the geek landscape. You know, we all sort of walk in this geek universe most of the time. We spend most of our life in the geek universe. And when I sort of walk around in the geek universe, the most social are the networking people. And and maybe there's a reason for that because they have to network. If you don't connect, and that requires some amount of human skill, you will not actually get anything done. And so maybe there is a real theme here that has legs of figuring out how to accelerate, scale out of the vision that I had in the very beginning on my slides of integrating 4,000 institutions of higher learning via the RENs. And I think that what Scenic's offering is a phenomenal, this option 4 of Scenic, I'm looking very much forward to seeing showing up all over the place. And maybe that other RENs will find other ways or this way to support their institutions and we'll be there to help with that from NRP and figure out how to grow NRP horizontally by building on the RENs. And I think that's sort of I like doing things in threes, and I think I just gave 3 observations. Anybody else? Suggestions?
24 by 7 instead of an 8 by 5 support system.
And 24 by 7. Demon, what do you think of that? So that's a you know, Larry and John a year and a half ago were both pushing for AI integration into Matrix or AI integration into what we do for user support. And my immediate reaction was, you must be out of your mind. Totally out of mind. They lost it. Now they really lost it. And you know, it's actually, the world has changed in the last year and a half. And this seems much more natural now than it felt a year and a half ago. So maybe that is something that it gets you to your 24/7. And in fact, a colleague of mine at MIT has implemented this. So they've done this for the support of their cluster, and the cluster now has all of the tickets, basically email tickets, get processed through an AI, and there is AI suggestions for answers. And I forget whether the AI suggestions for answers are, I don't think they get automatically sent yet. It requires a human to actually sign off. It's not an unreasonable way forward.
It amplifies every hour of the human.
Okay. What else? Anything else?
I think another dimension I've been thinking about a lot is data. And I spent some time browsing the initial pilot, NAIRR pilot data resources. And from an astronomy perspective, there's a lot missing in my view, and I'd like to, work on that. But I've already been working on that with OSDF. So it strikes me and I think, I don't know what the solution is. Maybe I just don't know it, but how to browse the OSDF registry of origins and discover the data collections that are available. And ideally, kind of like an easy button for that. Mm-hmm. So that you can push a button and get the YAML file actually, and then pick the stack you want for that data, and then push a button and get the YAML file that you need to submit to NRP to launch a container for that data. I think something like that would be a great resource for NAIRR.
We have a plan on that one. So that's actually sort of and it's we're making it up as we go to some extent. The NSF funded as part of the National Discovery Cloud for Climate that you've heard in Katie's talk and maybe also in Ilkay's talk.
Right.
As part of that, the NSF funded 2 projects. One is Pelican, and the other one is the National Data Platform. They were funded intentionally as to build on each other, meaning they were funded as a doublet and not as individuals from get-go. So the Pelican is the software that drives OSDF, and it is the software that will drive the OSDF. And so Pelican is in charge of connecting all of these data sources via origins and so forth. And NDP is charged to make it all findable so that you can actually, and the way that Ilkay thinks about it is that it's more than just finding. She has basically the same vision as you just expressed.
Yeah. We've talked, so I'll be talking with her. So maybe I'll just follow up with her.
So I think within that context, it'll be interesting to see where we're at next year with this. And so if anybody has specific data set that you want us to prioritize, and I know your what was it, the NCAR data that you mentioned, that's on the list and the docket, because as part of this the NDCC, NCAR will integrate with the OSDF, and so the entire NCAR catalog of data that they have will magically appear on the
Although
OSDF.
This one's siloed at NCAR, so we've already determined that this one is left out of that.
If it's siloed, we'll figure our way out how to bring it out.
Yep.
But basically, so that's supposed to happen. Yeah. And if there are other data sets that people want, I think now it's a good time within the next year. I think that is a very reasonable goal to have a year from now. A focus on what have we accomplished in terms of what's now available, something along those lines. A talk less on what are we trying to do, like Ilkay's talk was sort of more, where are we heading, what are we trying to do? And then next year, what have we accomplished, what's there now? That's actually a very good idea.
Is NDP a resource that NAIRR is including already, or the desire is that NDP will be a resource. Okay.
Either in the next or the next to next round of allocations.
Right.
NDP is very, very young, and it didn't have a prior installed base. Pelican had the advantage that it had a prior installed base in OSDF. We'll be basically funding this out of our pockets. Somebody said fairy dust.
Yeah, right.
I think Valerie's called it the fairy dust.
We've committed our fairy dust.
So OSDF was sort of a fairy dust project. And now it's actually has a software project behind it. So I think that's I think that is it's a good goal for the next year. Jerry.
So, Frank, I think one of the things to consider with the sustainability and the growth of NRP is making it easier to tell the story of impact of NRP. So I think these sort of science stories that were over the course of the last day, pulling them out so they could be something that would be short write-ups would be really important. But more technically, as you think about chat GTP type capabilities, as opposed to going into the daunting world of user service needs, to take those approaches and to apply them to the data that's in the namespaces. Because unless you're Larry and Dima and Tom, and think about how many slides started with someone saying, well, Larry made this slide for me, right? That should be an automated prompt-based, I'd like to see how many users on my campus are using this type of thing. I think that would help a lot of people get to the data to help tell the story about why this is important to their campus. If I put on my CIO hat, I think the other thing that you could think about trying to calculate is GPU offsets. You know, if you think about when Cisco initially moved into WebEx, one of the things they calculated was people who didn't need to travel someplace and the carbon savings that came out of that. For everyone who uses an NRP resource who doesn't need to extend a GPU-based machine room with the accompanying electrical and power needs, those sort of offsets are the things that matter when you're trying to explain, well, it's a network cost or we could expand our machine room. So if we can translate back the you didn't have to get a GPU, but you got the capability which allowed you to offset these power or facilities needs, anything, and staffing would be another way. And then I think a thing to pry open a little more technically aggressively is if we move more people to the easy button. The challenge right now to the easy button is once they push it, we don't easily get to tell the story of what they're doing. We don't know the resource they've used. We don't know why they've used it. And that is a big barrier as we move more folks into NAIRR. So I think thinking about how do we set or customize Jupyter Hub in a way that we can see more usage data is a really important thing because we're blind to it right now. And that blindness is going to make us vulnerable even as we become more reliant because we won't have the stories to tell.
Actually, a very good point. Dimo and Derek, that's smack in your court. Because we had talked about bringing more transparency. I mean, there's an unbelievable amount of information that we record about ourselves. And right now, there's very, very few people who have any chance in hell to make that, have access to that. So let's figure out how to make that more easily available. And we actually have a standing offer from James Deaton to use Internet 2's PR machinery for stories to spread the word. So there is if we manage to get the visibility, create the stories, we can put the stories out. Tom.
Just in case I'm the last one, again, almost, I want to thank the AV crew, who has done a great job, and also as local arrangements co-chair with Susan Rathman. Of course, they're all the local arrangements people are outside. Maybe you can get them in for just a second. Yeah. But if you, we probably want to do one of these again next year. And I would like suggestions. You can send them to me if you have complaints or suggestions. And no, I can't do a lot about the parking. I just suggest you stay in your hotel and take Ubers here. It's cheaper and less frustrating for me too. I mean, I set up parking spaces for people, and people stole them. Other people parked in there. It's terrible. So, That is the norm. Larry's got a emeritus parking space he can never get into because always somebody stole it. Everybody's in it all the time. Anyway, please send me your thoughts and prayers. And let's get these folks in here. Come on. This way, we got to see you. Come on. This is Shantae and Tracy and Max. Come on. Hey. And there's up. Susan must be off doing something useful.
So Cindy's trying to find Susan, who just walked off because we didn't prepare this. So again, and of course, I have no idea what you just said because I was outside. So let me double up and thank you guys for making this event possible. It's a pleasure to work, Susan. It's a pleasure to work with you and your team, and you're doing this so well that I want to run more and more of these and make you more and more busy. But we'll keep that within reason.
And then the AV crew, can you guys wave up there? Hey.
It was a huge success. Thank you very much.
Right.
And we love coming here to QI. Thank you. Then, unless anybody else has anything else they want to add, we're done.
Got the lunchbox.
Their lunchbox is outside. And at the very latest, we'll see you all again next year. Otherwise, I'm sure we'll see most of you throughout the year, on and off. Thank you.
Thank you.